everyone. The beneficent Jupiter is about to transit into Pisces after 12 years. He's coming home to his own sign on the 14th of April 22, and he will remain there until the 21st of April 23. He will definitely bring many blessings from this position. However, in this transit, Jupiter will be for about 5 months hemmed between malefics and what is known as a Kartari Yoga. This will reduce the beneficence, and it's so important that you understand the dates to make the most of the transit. So if you're new to my channel, don't forget to sub below, and if the video is good for you, give it a thumbs up. Let's begin. Let's look at the astrology, everybody. On the 14th of April, when Jupiter Guru comes home to his own sign of Pisces, he is truly home. This is the place where he lives, the place where he relaxes truly, and where he gives the most magnificent blessings. Why? Because in the sign of Sagittarius, which is also his own sign, he is actually in his office. He's at work there, making sure that dharmic and righteous action is done at all times. He has much busyness in Sagittarius, but in Pisces, he has only one business. He goes into the cave by the sea. Pisces is the sea, and he actually meditates. He goes into deep contemplation. So Jupiter, the giver of Dharma, the giver of wisdom, in Pisces gives the deepest spiritual connection to the Supreme. He gives the deep spiritual knowledge, a deep knowing that gives forgiveness, truth, kindness, peace, and all blessings of a happy life. So basically, this is a most magnificent transit. It occurs once every 12 years. So in this strong position, Jupiter can open up the blessings for which he is renowned, the blessings of children, the blessings of good education, wealth, and also marriage in a female chart. However, to give these blessings, Jupiter must be unafflicted. And on the 14th of April 22, as he begins the transit, he is unfortunately hemmed in a most difficult Kartari Yoga. This yoga, Kartari, means that any sign or planet is hemmed by malefics in either side. So in this way, Jupiter is hemmed by Rahu in front and Mars behind. Can you see? And they are cutting both of them across the sign in this way. It's known as a scissor yoga. And unfortunately, it won't improve very soon, because on the 30th of April, right up until the 13th of July, Shani has gone forward into Aquarius. So at the back of Jupiter, we now have Shani and Mars, Rahu and the Sun ahead, more hemming than ever before. Even the beautiful Jupiter-Venus conjunction that will give certain blessings, these blessings will come at the cost of restriction because of the Kartari Yoga. But most fortunately, everybody, from the 14th of July right up until the 18th of Jan 23, Jupiter is transiting free from the Kartari effect, because Aquarius is now free from malefics. So the most blessings, the most hassle-free blessings, that is, come to you during these months. Make a note of them in your diary. I will also post them in the box below. And where this transit is more difficult for you, because for some signs it is, these will be the months when it will be less troublesome to you. Of course, Jupiter will also transit in retrograde motion during these dates, but that will just increase the beneficence of Jupiter during this time. But on the 19th of Jan, right up until 21st of April, everybody, the Kartari is back as Shani goes forward into Aquarius. So Rahu and Shani are hemming both onto Jupiter, creating frustration and difficulty getting these blessings. It won't be impossible, but it's much more hassle. So basically, make the most of the dates I've already indicated to you. It's very important to know those. How to use the readings, everyone. I am using the Vedic or sidereal signs only, of course, and I am reading from the Ascendant and the Moon sign. Where there is a difference between the two, I will make it very clear in the interpretation. If you should have a Western chart, you must take away 23 degrees from the position of your Moon and Ascendant to get the correct sign. Let's begin. For Aries Moon and Aries Lagna both, Jupiter is Lord of your 9th house and your 12th house. Guru or Jupiter going back into his own sign in your 12th house has many profitable factors for you. But the reading is different from the Moon and Ascendant. Let me just clarify first of all. From the Moon in Aries, because Jupiter has gone behind the Moon sign, it increases stress in your subconscious mind. You can have sleep problems, worries, concerns this year. Really all about nothing. You're just becoming extra anxious. So take care for that. Otherwise, it's still got the favorable factors I'm going to talk about. From both Moon and Ascendant, though, Jupiter is the lord of your 9th house in the 12th house own sign. He can take you into foreign lands, many of you, or at least you'll be journeying further than you normally would. He takes you into meditation retreats, spiritual knowledge, pilgrimage, all of these things, and gives you tremendous spiritual wisdom and a real sense of renewal. As the lord of higher learning in your chart, Jupiter in the 12th house will also favor those who are students. He will give you a deep ability to study quietly and to get the best grades. You do this by shutting yourself off from all distraction, and it's very, very favorable indeed. You get a deep understanding of your subject this year, so for students, it's highly beneficial. But because the 12th house rules loss or surrender of things, basically you may decide that this education course is not for you and you may give it up completely. That can be seen when the lord of the 9th has gone into the 12th house itself. But because Jupiter is in own sign, it will not be something which is difficult for you to do. You will have been thinking about this for some time and it will actually work out smoothly. For those who are not students, though, the lord of your 9th going into 12th house will still make you studious this year, keen to study metaphysical, occult subjects, astrology, etc., and you will get enormous benefit from all of these studies. Jupiter is lord of your 9th house, so for many of you, a new guru or leader or inspiration comes into your life, someone who gives you a real core belief system, which is going to change everything. The 5th aspect of Jupiter is on to the 4th house, so your home life will improve, your domestic environment becomes more harmonious, and you're putting a lot of effort and expansion into this. Some of you move home, and it will be a very favorable move indeed. There are a few hassles over the 12th house Jupiter aspecting the 6th house. One of the things is that minor health issues keep on cropping up this year, especially from the moon sign, where you get yourself stressed and a little bit agitated sometimes. But either way, what you have to do is not get into competitive rivalry situations. Jupiter expands rivalry in your work situation. There can be competition and a feeling of ill ease. So try to avoid this as much as you can, and health issues will take care of themselves. Now, the 9th aspect of Jupiter onto the 8th house again indicates a deep spiritual wisdom available to you. Excellent for students, excellent for those in research or working in any research area. It will go extremely well. You could even get fame from these areas in the next 12 months, some of you. A benefit of Jupiter aspect in the 8th house, though, although you may get some minor illnesses coming up, as I've said, chronic and long-term illnesses can be tremendously improved by this transit. Of course, Jupiter being in the house of loss and expenses, he will expand expenses in your life this year. And at some point, because he's aspecting the actual house of debt, 6th house, and of investments, 8th house, you will have to pay off some of your debts and pay a lot of attention to government factors like taxes, etc. So there's a little bit of hassle coming your way that can be stressful this year to do with your debt and your investment. So try to sort these out as much as you can, and you will find that you are much relieved by paying some attention to this rather than just letting them hang on unsorted. For some Aries, Moon and Lagna, though, because Jupiter aspects the 8th house of other people's resources, you will get help from your family members financially, or some of you may even get inheritance during this transit. For Taurus Moon and Taurus Ascendant both, Jupiter is the lord of your 8th house and the lord of your 11th house. So he always brings profit to you, but he brings it at the cost of leaving something behind. Now, this transit of Jupiter is enormously beneficial, I have to tell you, both from the Moon and Ascendant. Jupiter is ready to give you very good results. He's going to give you profit, success, a real feeling of being in touch with the world again. You will feel extremely optimistic and forward-looking during the whole of this transit. Don't forget, though, that the most important part of the transit will be when Jupiter is free from the Papa Kartari Yoga, and that won't be until the middle of July up until the middle of January 23. Until then, opportunities are there. For instance, new job opportunities will come to you as soon as Jupiter is here. Increase of income is possible, and all sorts of favors come to you in your work situation, and work colleagues are extremely helpful to you. Jupiter is a functional malefic because he rules both the 8th and the 11th house, which are challenging houses. This means that when he gives you profit, when he gives you increased income, new job opportunities, opens up the doors, you have to leave something behind. You have to move away from something. And this is why he is a malefic for Taurus, because Taurus is a fixed sign and Taurus doesn't like this sort of change. Now, Lord of the 11th in the 11th will definitely widen your social network circles. Don't hold yourself back. Don't be lazy about this, Taurus. Get to know these new people in your life. They can actually offer you even romantic opportunities and sometimes spousal opportunities for some people as well. Even you may meet a new business partner, some of you, during this transit. Because again, Jupiter is Lord of your 8th house, you will find that these new opportunities, these friendship or networking opportunities, business opportunities, these people are not exactly on your wavelength completely. They demand a lot of you. And this can make you a little bit wary, but don't be, because there is great fortune coming to you from these new connections. If you are expanding your business or even your own enterprise this year, Jupiter aspect to the 7th house of marketplace will give tremendous opportunity. You will be able to find a way to sell almost anything this year. You will be able to be independently successful, whether in a business partnership or alone. Marketplace is great this year. But here's the thing, you are consistently having to push into new areas. Push out the boundaries of what you are familiar with. This is what Jupiter is always demanding. Now, the bright light of Jupiter is shining on the 3rd house of your chart. So this year, your communications are spot on. You come over to people in a really friendly, beneficial way. Neighbors, colleagues, work colleagues, everybody who you meet, you impress with your optimism and your goodwill. This is one of the reasons why new romance and relationships come your way. Especially, you get the favor of your siblings and good fortune comes from them in the next 12 months. If you are a student, Jupiter's aspect onto the 5th house will help your education course go well. But there is one special problem. Jupiter makes you less focused in this 11th house. He doesn't make you focused on your studies as much. And therefore, if you have final examinations, important examinations during this time, you're going to have to make a real extra effort to keep yourself on task. Those of you wanting to start a family or to increase your family, childbirth, new children coming into your life is extremely possible. And relations with your existing children, if you have them, are very, very happy in the next 12 months. The 9th aspect of Jupiter is very important. It has a very idealistic feel to it. And so basically, you're going to be expanding your relationship to incorporate your new ideals in life. And if your partner isn't on board with you, sometimes there can even be split of a relationship unless you are on the same wavelength. But that would be rare. Mostly Jupiter aspecting 7th house increases the bond with your spouse, makes you more likely to forgive past problems, and they are also more open to you and what you are doing. So it can actually bring you closer together, especially if there is new family around. And of course, if you are looking for a partner, it's definitely favorable. Jupiter here brings the possibility of a deep bond and a new relationship for many of you. Apart from relationships, Jupiter's aspect to the 7th house can increase the closeness with your existing friends, and a special new friend may also come into your life. So Jupiter expands your social and networking circles in a very favorable way throughout the whole of this transit. For Gemini, Moon and Lagna, Jupiter rules the 7th but also the 10th house of your chart. He can bring you profit, expansion, but also loss alongside it. He has that effect in your life. Sometimes you overexpand with Jupiter and have to pull back later. And now he's going into the 10th house of your chart. So this is favorable from Ascendant, definitely. But from the Moon, you have to watch your health. You have to take care of health this year. And you have to watch from overexpansion. This could give financial loss. Jupiter in the 10th for Moon and Ascendant will give you expansive opportunities in your career. Sometimes it's a whole new department, a whole new phase of your working life open up, something which you've wanted for some time, even promotion for some of you. But it always is going to demand extra from you, perhaps more than you bargained for, and that's something to watch out for. Because Jupiter is your 7th house lord, you may start a new business partnership this year, some of you, but once again, it won't be easy to begin with. It'll be very demanding. And one of the most important factors to take note of, Jupiter in the 10th house will create tension for all Gemini with the home life balance. How much time do you have for home life? How much time for your work life? There can be a clash between the two opening up this year, and it will also impact strongly on your partnership and relationships. Another factor is that some of you may find a new romantic or partnership opportunity opening up in your workplace itself. Once again, this can create a conflict of interest. The all-important 5th aspect of Jupiter onto the 2nd house increases financial security in your life. Don't forget, Rahu is in your 11th house right now, expanding the doors and bringing extra income to you. So you'll be really securing your financial future now, and this is very favorable. Jupiter also increases interaction with your family, and closeness with them can increase in the next 12 months. Now, the 7th aspect of Jupiter onto the 4th house is very strong aspect. You can move this year. You can expand your property. You can buy new properties. You can simply find a completely different place to live that is much more harmonious for you. This may be brought on by the changes in your career, or you've just wanted to do this for so long and now the opportunities present themselves. The aspect here also increases harmony with your family, and you will get a lot of support from them in the next 12 months. Now, the 9th aspect of Jupiter is very important. It's onto the 6th house of your chart. You don't really want Jupiter expanding the 6th house too much, but it will do. What will it do? First of all, from the moon, particularly niggling health problems come up. Pay attention to them immediately and you can sort them. But even from ascendant, health problems are coming mainly from food, because Jupiter aspects the house of eating and the house of digestion. Watch your diet very carefully in the next 12 months. Now, as your status in your job improves, as you get noticed, there will also be competition, because Jupiter's aspect to the 6th house is going to bring competition, rivalry your way, and you are multitasking, taking on so much this year that you've not a moment to spare, and this can create a high level of stress. So be careful to take care of your health, because you might just overstep the mark, taking on too much. You must make time for some relaxation and time to yourself. For Cancer Moon and Cancer Ascendant both, Jupiter is the lord of your 9th house, but he's also the lord of your 6th house. So he always brings some conflicts into your life. At the same time, he brings good fortune. The transit into his own house, 9th house, will have some incredible benefits for your spiritual and your mental well-being. 9th house Jupiter takes you into higher learning. Higher education goes extremely well, by the way. Academic education during the next year. You gain confidence and support of your teachers, lecturers, and tremendous success in higher education. The highest grades are possible. But even if you're not in education, you will study new philosophies. You'll be reading far and wide and getting knowledge of higher truths, astrology, religion, etc. And these will actually give you an inner sense of confidence in the next 12 months. Now, Cancerians normally love to travel, and Jupiter in the 9th house will expand opportunity for travel to foreign lands, but also aspect to the 3rd house. Even if that doesn't happen, you will definitely be on the move a lot, and all of your travels will be safe and very helpful and prosperous for you, that's for sure. One thing to be mindful of, both Moon and Ascendant, is the amount of debt you have in your life. Jupiter going into the 4th house from the 6th house could expand the amount of debt which you take on, because he is a 6th house lord. Be careful that you don't overextend yourself. But as Jupiter is your 6th lord and he's aspecting the 1st house of the chart also, he should help your health problems. You have a more optimistic view of all of your health issues, and they are improving in the next 12 months. One thing though, watch food intake, because Jupiter will increase your attraction to sweet food, and you could find yourself putting on weight in the next few months. The all-important 7th aspect of Jupiter onto the 3rd house will put you into contact with quite a few people in this next 12 months. You're getting on a lot better with your neighbors or the people who are around you day-to-day basis, and with your siblings definitely. A deep connection, deep bond is coming forth. And even with your father, there is some definite benefit coming from him in the next 12 months. Now, because Jupiter rules the house of legalities, legal affairs and confrontations, aspecting the third house, which also relates to similar factors. You may have a few legal affairs or confrontations with competitors to deal with, but because Jupiter is strong in his own sign, you will come out on top of all these situations. You will actually find that something you thought could never go your way is actually going to do so. The aspect of Jupiter to the 5th house will help you if you have children and they are having any problems, they will be solved. You may have childbirth or expansion of your family most definitely this year. One thing though to be wary of, a little bit cautious with, is speculation. As I've spoken about, Jupiter 9th house doesn't help you take care of your debts or your finances very well. And the aspect to the 5th house does tempt you to taking risks financially. Be really careful about this. He is your 6th house lord, and he can get you into debt more than he can solve financial problems. So take caution, because speculation is not helped by 9th house Jupiter, whose mind is on higher things than these. For Leo Moon, Leo Lagna, Jupiter rules your 5th house. It's a lot to do with your future, how you plan for your future, what your actions bring you in the future. And he's gone to the 8th house, the house of transformation. In the next year, your whole goals for the future will completely turn upside down. You'll be thinking in a completely different way this time next year to how you are now. And it's going to be a fortunate transformation. You see, Jupiter going into the 8th house will increase a sense of dissatisfaction for all Leo, Moon and Ascendant. You won't be happy with your financial life, your business affairs, and even your joint financial affairs with your partner. You will be feeling that you can do so much more and that you're being blocked on so many fronts. All of a sudden, what was okay for you before starts to be not okay at all. Jupiter in this 8th house may increase tension with your spouse or partner or business partner over jointly held assets. There may need to be a complete transformation of what you are doing in any business. But on the other hand, there will be moments of a great deal of profit coming to you because of Jupiter's aspect to the 2nd house. So sudden profit, sudden stock market gain, sudden wills, inheritance, family assets coming to you are all a possibility as well. But ultimately, you'll have to transform your whole financial situation, because even though you get these gains, they won't be truly as much as you had expected. Now, the 5th lord of knowledge going into the 8th house will definitely be good for students, especially as Jupiter aspects the 12th house. It gives you the ability to be alone and to study more than you have had recently with Jupiter in the 7th house. So you spend a lot more time in your private studying, and the rewards are going to be tremendous. But all Leos benefit by Jupiter 8th house in terms of deep metaphysical study, occult study, even astrology. Jupiter aspecting 12th house gives you great knowledge and benefit from these studies, and actually going into foreign lands sometimes, going on pilgrimage, retreat, whatever it is, meditation groups. You need to go somewhere to get away from the stresses of your life this year, and that is going to be the number one benefit of Jupiter 8th house. It will completely refresh you and make you see your whole future differently. Now, the dual aspect of Jupiter from the 8th house to the 2nd house of family and the 4th house of home is very important. You'll be spending more time with your family. Harmony with them will increase, although, as I've said, there may be some financial stresses to be sorted. You'll be expanding your home most definitely. Some of you want to move this year, even into foreign lands, which may be favorable, but you want to transform your whole home life. And these transformations are long overdue. So selling property, moving is very possible for many Leo, Moon and Lagna in the next 12 months. Now, because this is a house of joint assets, sometimes there can even be splitting of the family home and sale of property and joint assets due to the fact that there is separation or divorce. But this would have been happening last year. It's not coming about this year. It's a long-term effect. One thing for sure though, whatever expansion or change you do in your home life, it will go very easily for you. There will be a quick sale. There will be a very valuable property available to you, or you will get the exact location which you would like to live in. So don't be afraid of these domestic changes. They are setting you en route for expansion as Jupiter goes forward into the 9th and 10th house of your chart in the next few years. For Virgo Moon and Virgo Lagna both, Jupiter is going into the 7th house of your chart. From both Ascendant and Moon, it's an extremely auspicious transit. The ruler of your 7th house is now in his own sign, and he is also the ruler of your 4th house of happiness. You can see it's going to be a very good transit in every way for Virgo. By the way, it's especially auspicious if you have Moon in Virgo, because the Moon and Jupiter make a very special yoga. So what's going on is you've had so many relationship misunderstandings, difficulties in the last year or so, and Jupiter is going to heal them now. There's going to be a healing, a real understanding. All of your past fears around relationships, friendships even, are going to evaporate in this Jupiter transit. But let's get the right perspective here. Jupiter in Pisces, as I've said, wants to be free. He doesn't want to be burdened here in Virgo chart with animosity in relationships. He doesn't want to be burdened by past grudges and misunderstandings. So one of two things happen. You make up, you get closer to people, you put beside you, put outside of your mind all of the difficulties, or you decide you need to set yourself free. But whatever you decide to do, Jupiter in the 7th house will help you achieve this goal smoothly. It's a bit like a hassle-free situation where you're able to stay or to move on. You're able to heal the wounds or to just say goodbye. Whatever it is, you are doing it because a new future awaits you. If you are a self-employed business person or doing anything off your own back as an enterprise, Jupiter, ruler of the 7th house, in the 7th house will make this even more successful. You may start a new business now. It's very likely because Jupiter aspects the house of profit. You will immediately get off to a really good start, and you could even expand an existing business extremely successfully in the next 12 months. But don't forget the important dates as I put on this video. It happens much more easily between July and January 23. Your health will definitely improve from Ascendant and Moon because Jupiter aspects the 1st house and gives you a renewed vitality. Most of all, though, it's coming from new consultation. Jupiter is in the house of consultants. So new medical advice, new advisors come into your life that give you the best options for your future and actually show you the healing path ahead. So it's very, very favorable for your health in the next 12 months. Now, the 5th aspect of Jupiter onto the 11th house gives you profit, new income, and a great deal of success in your business, but also in employment. You can have successful job interviews, you can get promotion, you can definitely increase wages in the next 12 months, and you become happier in your whole work environment. You are happier with your colleagues. There's an expansive happiness surrounding you in work situations, whatever you do for a living. For single Virgos, Jupiter in the 7th house can bring you definitely into contact with potential spouse, partner relationships, even new close friendship, because Jupiter expands your network circles and also keeps you on the move by the 9th aspect to the 3rd house. So it's definitely a possibility of a new relationship beginning. The main thing is that Jupiter opens you up to the sort of partner or person that you hadn't considered before. Jupiter makes you more open to people from different backgrounds to yourself, and this can be favorable. Jupiter's 9th aspect onto the 3rd house will make your communications go very well this year. Relationship with your siblings improve tremendously, and with your neighbors and all people local to you. You are also able to get a new skill-based training. Any of you starting new employment will maybe have to learn a new skill in connection with it, and it will go extremely well indeed. You are becoming multi-talented this year. You are really expanding beyond previous boundaries. Which brings us to the one perhaps negative factor of Jupiter in the 7th house. You see, Virgos are perfectionists. You like to be focused on everything. You don't like to be distracted. But there's so much going on this year that you will feel a little bit stretched, and this will increase stress in your life. So make sure that you give yourself enough time for relaxation and self-care. It's very, very important. For Libra Moon and Libra Ascendant, Jupiter rules your 3rd house house of competition and conflicts, and he's gone into the 6th house, which is more or less the same. So you can expect a year of so much going on due to so many different factors coming up suddenly to need resolving. There's endless problems, endless conflicts, even some illnesses coming up, and all of these things are so sudden that you're always taken by surprise. But the good news, because Jupiter is strong in his own sign, you will as suddenly get rid of them all. But the thing is that it will keep you on your toes, and you simply won't have a moment to yourself in the whole of this year. In fact, as far as your health is concerned, it's more to do with the high level of stress that's causing you to be vulnerable to illness. So you have to watch your stress level really carefully and what you're eating, because Jupiter is in the house of digestion and aspecting the house of food. You have a very sweet tooth because you're ruled by Venus, and Jupiter having aspect of your eating house, 2nd house, you can find it very hard to keep to a diet this year. There's a real temptation coming your way, and the high stress level can simply mean that overeating becomes a real temptation. You need to de-stress as much as you can, and the aspect of Jupiter to the 12th house shows you the way to do this. It's a year when 12th house factors are helpful to you, such as religious experience, pilgrimage, trips abroad, trips into a quiet retreat, meditation classes, relaxation, yoga, all of these things. Jupiter expands all of these in your life to your enormous benefit. One of the most beneficial factors, though, of this transit for Libra is the 5th aspect of Jupiter onto your 10th house of your career and your status. It's likely you'll start a new job, expand into a new department, do something more expansive with your job. But this is going to increase two things: responsibility and a high level of competition. If you are self-employed, the same thing applies. You're expanding your business into new marketplace. But this is the most important factor, though. Librans in general do not like competition, even though you are highly competitive. It's a very strange thing. You're a very competent business person, very competent on your job, and you deal well with other people as well. You're excellent relating to other people. But the weak point for Libra is always the same. You want to please everybody. You do not like it when there is conflict, competition that is open. It causes you a great deal of distress. But as you get more success this year, and as you put your head above the crowd and get noticed, you will attract rivalry and some competitors. But you will deal with it, especially easier as this 12 months goes forward. But the good reward is that Jupiter has a 9th aspect onto the 2nd house of your chart. So even though there are some debts and expenses as this transit begins, by the end of it, at the beginning of 23, you will find yourself much better off financially. You will have stabilized a very tricky financial situation that's been going on for some time. And you will also find yourself much closer to your family this year. Much happiness with them will also occur. For Scorpio, Moon and Lagna, it's very helpful to see the Lord of your 2nd and the Lord of your 5th house in a Tricone house in his own home, especially as his great friend to your Lord Mars and Ketu, the co-ruler. You're going to feel much happier, much more secure, and much more purposeful in the next year because of this Jupiter placement. All of the Karaka significance of Jupiter are blessed by this position. So if you want to have children, pregnancy is a possibility. If you are having trouble with your existing children, they will get better. There will be renewed happiness with them. If you are a teacher, you will have happiness with your students. And if you are in education, you will have one of the most favorable years you've had for some time. Now, Jupiter increases confidence in a Tricone house, and definitely he will increase your capabilities of taking opportunity for gain. There will be many possibilities for new job income, definitely. Sometimes you will expand beyond your capability because of Jupiter's aspect to the 1st house. That's the only negative thing about Jupiter here. Don't take on too much that you don't succeed with anything. Be cautious. Focus on what you really want in your life because you are very likely to get it this year. It's that sort of transit. Long-term illnesses and health issues definitely benefit by Jupiter having a full 9th aspect to the first house. You will get over these now. You will find definite cure for any long-term problem. At least you can significantly ease it now. One issue is that Jupiter is the lord of your house of food, and aspecting the ascendant increases appetite and very often for sweet food. So be careful of overindulgence. It could give negative effect. Of course, Jupiter is your security, and when he goes into the 5th house, you can take risk with that and be very tempted by speculative gains, stock market, even gambling. Be really careful about this. Jupiter is not in a good place for success when he's framed by malefics. I've just shown you those dates at the beginning of the video. So be really cautious when Jupiter is under that Papa Kartari Yoga at the beginning and the end of the transit in particular. Finally, Jupiter generally expands your attraction to other people, and if you are looking for a new relationship, if that is appropriate for you, new romance is a definite possibility because Jupiter is the lord of your 5th house and he is aspecting the 11th house of social contact. So that is a definite possibility, especially, by the way, when you are traveling in any capacity whatsoever. That's because the aspect of Jupiter expands you into foreign travel, into foreign exploration. Even if it's not long distance travel, you are on the move in some way this year. And Jupiter here will definitely bring favorable contacts from people in far distant lands. Even a new guru, a new teacher, a mentor, and excellent relationships with your father. You will study philosophy, deep spiritual truths, and get enormous benefit from them in the next 12 months. For Sagittarius Moon, Sagittarius Ascendant, a very auspicious transit for you, and Jupiter, who is the lord of your sign, has gone into his own other sign, Pisces, his actual home, and which is, of course, your home, your 4th house. It's generally more auspicious from Ascendant, though, than from the Moon, because the Moon will actually increase some expenses in your life. So monetary affairs need careful attention if you have the Moon in Sagittarius with this transit. So attention of Jupiter is full on in the 4th house in your domestic sphere. In the last year, while Jupiter was in the house behind this, transiting into Aquarius, it was not favorable for you because it caused many losses and frustration in your domestic sphere. There may have been losses of property deals may have gone badly, and there will have been a lot of frustrations dealing with domestic situation. But that all changes this year. Finally, you can have the property deal you want. Finally, you can find a good home. Finally, you can deal with property in a most auspicious way. But don't forget the dates that are most important. When Jupiter is without affliction behind and in front, you get the most hassle-free progress. That will be, as I've shown you on the video, between middle of July 22 and the middle of January 23. So take note of those dates. So with your Lord in the 4th house, you're taking the step to either move, relocate, or to dig in and make big improvements. Either way, expansion in your home life is there. Once again, it's easier from Ascendant than from the Moon, but it's going to be happening in both cases. The 4th house rules all education generally. So when you have Jupiter here, you, because Jupiter is your Lord, will find the right course for yourself, and it will be a very enjoyable course with really good prospects for you. If you are in education having problems, you will get rid of all those problems and get down to really good study again. Or you might decide to leave education and actually go into employment. That's a definite possibility for some of you. One caution, though, is with your general financial dealings. So Jupiter's making you a little bit happy-go-lucky with them this year. Why? He's aspecting the 8th house and the 12th house, two Dustana houses. 8th house is about your savings and other people's money coming to you and profits from your savings, investment, stock market, all of these things. You're in a bit of a risk-taking mood this year. It may work out sometimes, but you can't be absolutely certain because Jupiter has aspect onto the 12th house. If you should have malefics in the 8th or the 12th house, definitely be cautious with your financial dealings. It could all get out of hand. So even though it's really good for your property dealings, general financial dealings need caution. Now, the aspect of Jupiter, 7th aspect to the 10th house of career, is very important. It's a big turning point for your career this year, Sagittarius. You want to be happy in your work. Jupiter is in the house of happiness. You want happiness from your career. If you are not getting that, you will be dissatisfied. Some of you could even leave a job, expand into a whole new area. Even if you get less income, you will be happier with that. Some of you want to work from home more, want to spend more time away from the workplace because it's so much hassle. You are making a big readjustment in what makes you happy in your career, what is satisfactory to you, and you should definitely listen to your heart in all of these experiences, because you are coming home to what is truly satisfying to you career-wise this year, and everything else has simply got to go. The 9th aspect of Jupiter onto the 12th house is really important. It puts you in a mood for almost escapist tendencies this year. You want to get away from it all. You want to travel, definitely. Most of you even go into foreign lands or make some definite pilgrimage or spiritual journey this year. This is because Jupiter puts you in touch with the deepest needs of a Sagittarius, which is exploration and expansion of physical boundaries. It's a very deep mystical journey for you this year, also with Jupiter aspecting 8th, 12th house. Many of you study astrology, occult study, deep mysteries of life in a much deeper and more profound way than you've had time for, because you've had so many distractions during the last year or so. Now you go deeper into the mystical experience and spiritual truths of life, and this gives you a great deal of deep satisfaction in the next 12 months. For Capricorn Moon and Capricorn Ascendant, Jupiter rules your 12th and your 3rd house. He brings you into some difficult confrontations with others, and that's definitely going to be magnified this year as he's in the confrontational 3rd house of your chart. But at the same time, he is deepening your bond with other people for the whole of this year. It's a very busy year socially, most definitely. Jupiter puts you in touch with people you don't even normally speak to, like neighbors, work colleagues, and new business associates come into your life if that is appropriate. You're on the go continually, networking, meeting new people. You've hardly got a moment to yourself in the next 12 months. The problem is that because Jupiter is your 12th house lord, two things can happen. There can be a big drain on your energy levels. You're just simply doing too much, and you've got to be aware of this. Secondly, there can be a lot of misunderstandings, misinterpretation of your speech and your communication. Be very careful with everything which you commit to writing. Everything which you say, you can be misquoted very often if you are not careful. Of course, Lord of the House of Sibling, in the House of Siblings, you will have a lot of contact with your siblings. They may be needy of your help this year, and you may even be traveling with them. It can be favorable to you, but once again, don't stretch yourself too far. Be especially careful at the beginning and the end of this transit. That's a time when Jupiter is most afflicted, behind and in front, by the Kartari Yoga, as I've spoken on the video. That's a time when misunderstandings with your siblings, with your colleagues, or with your neighbors are most likely to occur. But the two most favorable aspects of Jupiter to the 7th and the 11th house have one important factor. If you are in business, you can expand into a whole new area. The marketplace opens up to you very favorably, especially in the July to January period I've spoken about. And a lot of business profits are definitely going to be there. If you are in employment, a new job opportunity can definitely come to you with increased income also. And you can even find improvement in relationships. There are changes in your relationship this year because of Jupiter's aspect to the 7th house. There may be some conflict and some difficulty with your spouse, but ultimately Jupiter will solve it in the end. Jupiter will bring you closer together through much more honesty with each other. Make sure communication is always straightforward and all will be well. Jupiter also could, for some of you, bring about a new relationship because he expands possibility of new partners in your life. So there's definitely a possibility of meeting a compatible partner for many of you. The aspect to your ninth house will definitely help you improve relationship with your father also. And if you are in education, with your teachers, mentors, and even a guru. But the problem is that Jupiter aspecting here can also cause confrontations with these very same people because of differences of opinion about philosophy and belief systems. So watch out for that. It's a real possibility in the next 12 months. If you have foreign travel this year, which you may do by the Jupiter aspect, it could cause you some delays because Jupiter is the 12th house lord. So foreign travel and far distant lands, you are attracted to them, but make sure everything is planned very carefully. Finally, the aspect of Jupiter to the 11th house is favorable for your income. The thing is that Jupiter 3rd house, you have to push open the doors yourself. They don't just open in front of you automatically. So seek out these new job opportunities, maybe a completely different sort of work environment for you or a change in your present work environment. It will definitely provide extra income for you, and that's a favorable factor. For Aquarius Moon, Aquarius Lagna, Jupiter is very favorable in the second house of the chart. But in your case, he's a lord of your 11th as well. And your second house, he definitely gives profit to you and much more financial security. It's especially auspicious from the moon because Jupiter is going ahead of the moon, which is very auspicious for your financial security. But don't forget, from the moon also, in the end of April and for a month or two of the summer, Saturn is coming right into your moon sign, starting the middle phase of Sadi. It's a completely transformational time, as I'll be speaking about soon on my next video, and it's definitely going to have you working double hard, but the profits will be tremendous. For Ascendant Aquarius, Saturn coming in briefly into your rising sign at the end of April until August period. This is definitely going to make you very serious about a new life direction. So for many of you, it's a serious time, but also a time of expansion financially. And this is what makes it absolutely superb time for business partnerships, and most of all, expanding into a new enterprise area or a whole new career. It's very favorable because profit and sustainable income is definitely guaranteed by this Jupiter in the second house. Now, Jupiter's second house increases the support of your family towards you and gets you into contact much more with your family members. There may be monetary factors to sort out with family as well. Some of you may even have benefit from wills, legacies, and inheritance in this next 12 months. Or if you should need financial assistance, family members are definitely going to help you, giving you loans and such, because Jupiter aspecting 8th house shows support of your family financially in the next 12 months. You may find a new business partner, start a new enterprise. That's a very good possibility for many of you this year. It's not a year for totally going it alone. You need the support of other people all of this year. Now, the 5th aspect of Jupiter onto the 6th house will help many of you who have long-standing health complaints. You will find relief from these most definitely. But there is another factor. Jupiter increases your appetite tremendously, being in the actual house of food. And this is a house of digestion, so we can see where that's going to go. Watch your food and drink intake. It can have negative consequence for some of you. And this is a house of stress and competition. And Jupiter will simply expand it this year. The reason being that your whole career is also in a very expansive phase. The 9th aspect of Jupiter expands your career and your status. Many of you get promotion, start a brand new career, or just leave the past behind and enter into a new enterprising situation. Whatever it is, it's a new start, it's an upward mobility for you, and it's giving you a great deal of satisfaction. And most of all, it's increasing income and security in your life. But at the same time, it will put a lot of demands on you. As I've said, Shani coming into your first house, you're going to have to work twice as hard in this new career situation. It's not going to be easy to begin with, but the long-term rewards are definitely going to show up even in the next year. For Pisces, Moon and Lagna, Jupiter going into the first house will start off a brand new phase in your life. A new path awakens before you and you see all new possibilities you couldn't see before. It's very beneficial for your mental health and your physical health also. But it's more auspicious from ascendant slightly than the moon. The thing is, from the moon sign, you get yourself tied up in extra worries and concerns, even though it is a profitable time. It's also because from the moon and Jupiter becomes a restless influence. They are not exactly on the same wavelength because Jupiter is really enemy of the moon. So this is why you get the expansion, you get the travel, you get the new contacts, even relationships, but it makes you feel a little bit on edge. You need to calm yourself down if you have Jupiter coming into conjunction with the moon to make the most of these really beneficial factors. But from both ascendant and moon sign, Jupiter will put you in a much fitter state, a much healthier state than you've been for some time. Your overall health will improve, with the one premise that Jupiter will increase a tendency for overindulgence because he has that effect on the first house. You may put on some weight, but otherwise it's excellent for your health and your well-being from both moon and ascendant. If you are a student or studying any course whatsoever, really, Jupiter in the first house will make everything clearer and easier for you. You might have had troubles when Jupiter was in the 12th house in your education, but now it's going to smooth out tremendously. You get real knowledge, real understanding on your course, and tremendous results and support from your teachers and your lecturers. Both the 5th house and the 9th house have to do with children, actually, and Jupiter is a karaka for children and childbirth. So you can see with the aspect to the 5th and the 9th, you are definitely going to have childbirth if that is what you are seeking. An increased happiness from your children, and all interactions with younger people become happier. If you are a teacher, it's especially auspicious also. The all favorable aspect of Jupiter to the 7th house of the chart is very favorable. If you are in business, a new business enterprise begins or your business expands and the marketplace is tremendously favorable for you. If you are seeking a new relationship, it's tremendously special, this, because Jupiter will bring you a special spiritual bond with somebody new. So look out for that person. Maybe they are in foreign lands as well, because Jupiter aspects the 9th house of foreign lands. But most importantly, it's a deep karmic bond also, and you should definitely go along with this. But one thing, it won't be so easy to get together always. Very often I've seen long distance relationships coming when you have Jupiter aspecting the 7th house. That's one possibility. If you are in a relationship, though, it's going to really improve now. A real deep understanding comes between you and your spouse. Where there's been disagreements, there will be forgiveness. Where there's been complications, they can be brought out into the open. It's all about seeking truth and honesty in your deepest relationships. Of course, Jupiter being in the 1st house will always increase movement and travel in your life. And connecting to the 9th house, for many of you, it will be into far distant lands as well. It will be extremely favorable and very smooth journeys will occur. You will also have a lot of contact with new gurus, teachers and mentors. All of you, even if you're not in formal education. There's a deep spiritual wisdom coming to you this year, and philosophy and knowledge is expanding in every way in your life, actually, and you get tremendous enjoyment from these deeper learnings. Relationship with your father is also supported by the transit of Jupiter in your 1st house. Check out more of the current transits you definitely need to know about up on your screen right now with a playlist. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to sub below. Goodbye for now, and God bless everyone.